welcome back to Bhakti Yoga, the last part, part 5. We have seen the whole path of Bhakti Yoga being explored by the great Saint Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Salutations to him for his tremendous, adventurous and great sadhana which he did to bring in the dimensions of bhakti in such vivid terms that the whole gamut of bhakti has become so clear. Through his intense efforts, he understood, he experienced that God exists and it is possible to see God in flesh and blood for everyone. The Kali that he saw, or the Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, all that he saw proved to him that God exists in various forms and all paths of bhakti are true. Whatever God we worship in whatever form, we get the darshan in the same form. And all these paths of bhakti ultimately lead to the same goal, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a state in which there are no thoughts, a state in which there are no pictures, visions. The mind is absolutely without any vikalpa, without any change. It is steady, it is silent. And that is the conclusion 3. Then we also understood that all paths of bhakti are true. The sakshatkara is not mere concoction of the mind. The seeing of God is not mere imagination. The seeing of the Lord in flesh and blood, as real as we see anybody else, is not mere the vision like a jaundice eye, but it is a reality. Initially to the person and later on to everyone. And that is backed up by the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and understanding. Conclusion 5, all religions can lead their followers to moksha if they are very sincere and if they follow the path with meticulous care and caution, and by converting their fanaticism to one-pointed devotion. These major 5 conclusions which were reached by Sri Ramakrishna, the greatest of the saints, enumerates the whole dimension of bhakti, starting from the resolve to change ourselves, to move from asuri sampat to daivi sampat, then converting ourselves from prema to bhakti to sakshatkara, and varieties and deeper samadhis, and reaching the nirvikalpa to reach that parabhakti state, and the ultimate merger is moksha. The concept of parabhakti is contained in equanimity, to live in a state of absolute bliss, attuned to that our inner being, attuned to the self, overcoming all the worries and disturbances and desires, and going beyond the dvandvas, harsha, amarsha, bhayo, udvegaihi, from the udvega, excitement, the joy, the pleasure, and the depressions, and the dukkha, he overcomes all that, and that is the state of parabhakti. It becomes possible for him because he sees the same Lord everywhere. It is seeing God and having that universal love, and because of that he never gets disturbed with the world and the world doesn't get disturbed with him. Yasman no dvijate lokaha, lokan no dvijate chayaha. And that is the state of parabhakti that is talked about here. Sri Ramakrishna in this state was fragrant with bliss, the ecstasy being expressed in all ways, and people could witness that as a living embodiment of ecstatic bliss, standing like a statue. This is his particular pose in which he was directing us to go towards the ultimate, to go towards the ultimate object. The ultimate goal has been the key here. And finally, when the journey gets completed, the time comes when the great Bhakta is on the deathbed. In the life of Sri Ramakrishna, there has also been a question that why should he suffer from cancer? Many of the disciples, devotees would come and ask, "O Lord Sri Ramakrishna, please, we cannot see you in the state of cancer. The throat cancer is troubling you too much. It is agonizing pain. We understand it is one of the most painful things. And therefore, why don't you request Mother Kali to cure you of this cancer?" But what was the answer? Sri Ramakrishna says that let this body take on this, and it is not too long before I leave this body. The question comes up as to why he should get cancer. Having accomplished such great stages of achievement, having seen God, why should a person of his caliber should get cancer or diabetes or hypertension? This is the stock question that many people ask. Not only Sri Ramakrishna, but many of the great yoga masters, spiritual men like Ramana Maharshi, who also got the throat cancer. And people said that Swami Vivekananda was having hypertension, if not diabetes. And why should these people suffer? The great people at this level have immense love for the people. They have got universal love, particularly to the devotees who are very close. They have pouring love. For example, if the mother has his son admitted into a hospital, he is suffering with intense fever, and probably the dread of a disease has engrossed him, will she not go there and do her best? She will take leave to his work, go there and do all that is possible to save the child, to save the son or the daughter. And that is the manifestation of love in action. Similarly, the great yoga masters, the great spiritual men having immense love for the devotees, often take on their problems unto themselves, and they know when they take on these diseases on their body, they can easily take it on without much difficulty, without much problem, without the tremendous agony and the misery that devotees would have had if they had these problems. And this is what many of the devotees say, that Sri Ramakrishna or Ramana Maharshi or Swami Vivekananda, with their immense love, they took on the problems to themselves and allowing them to live a better life, a healthier life. And when they took on to themselves, they had no problem, because their mind is all the time in that ecstasy. Ramakrishna was immersed in that ocean of bliss all the time. Ramana Maharshi was in that great silence of samadhi. But some of the devotees convinced Ramana Maharshi, "Please, we will ask our surgeon to cut off this cancer tumor." And Ramana Maharshi said, "Okay, if you are so keen, go ahead." But then he said, "No anesthesia is needed. Please give me half an hour time, I will go back to the great samadhi and do all your surgery. When it is over, you tell me, and I am going to come back." And look at the conquest. He goes and merges himself into the deep samadhi. The surgeons come and then touch his tumor. There is no response. they slightly pinch and see, nothing happens, and they do the surgery for the desired time, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and the whole malignancy is removed, the tumor is removed. But Ramana was in a state of immense bliss and joy of samadhi. That is the conquest. Therefore, in the lives of such great people, we see that they take on themselves the problems and the diseases of their devotees, and their body express themselves. This is a way of looking at things, but those material minded people, logically framed structure of mind people, won't accept it. They say they are a little short of the ultimate. And Sri Ramakrishna was so full of humility, he says, absolutely no problem. Somebody comes and asks, sir, if you have merged with the totality, if you are all the time one with that innate self, when we come and then call you, what will respond? A very subtle question. Sri Ramakrishna answers this way. He says that I am like a burnt up rope. The burnt up rope has got still the shape, but it has lost all its strength and vitality needed for using it as a rope. Similarly, the people in the Parabhakti, the people who are in the great states of Jnana, they still have a ego, a purified ego, a completely blossomed I notion, totally in tune with the ultimate reality. And he used the term kachami and the pakkami, the I which is raw, which is bitter, and the I which is full of fragrance and love. The one is an expanded I, another is a constricted I. We are all normally in our constricted I and the ego, whereas Sri Ramakrishna, like great masters, had their expanded I, that all pervasive I, the sense. And therefore, there is a small element of still the Maya in that sense, and when that also vanishes, they merge and become one with the ultimate. This is what happens when they decide to leave the body. On the deathbed, what happens? Let us look at it. Shri Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaran bhuktva kalevaram yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayaha. And whoever at the time of death, leaving the body, goes forth remembering me alone, he attains my being. There is no doubt about it. That when he is on the deathbed continuously remembering the same consciousness, the Lord of the universe, in the form of maybe his Ishta Devata, and the mind is completely saturated in this, then when he leaves this body, what happens? Then he merges with the totality. This is called the Videha Mukti. So normally, when the death hour comes, most of the people know that I am going to die. But as normal people, we all get panic. But the great bhaktas are in that immense happiness, ecstatic bliss of the Lord and the God, and they live voluntarily with total surrender to the ultimate, and the death will be totally different. It is as joyful, as blissful as a living state. It is as easy and comfortable as living alive. It is with complete voluntary effort. Just as we raise our hand, just as we stand and sit, these people are able to leave their body with complete volition. That is the beauty of the accomplished masters. When they leave body, there are two types of death. One in which they leave the physical body, get into the pranamaya kosha, leave the Pranamaya Kosha, separate themselves from the Pranamaya Kosha, then from the Manomaya, Vijnana, Anandamaya Koshas, and merge with the totality of that infinite pure consciousness, that all pervasive Brahman. That is one way by which they dissociate themselves from the grossest layers. Just like when we peel off an onion, you take away the grosser things and go deeper and deeper, subtler and subtler to the interior. In the same way, you go on removing layers after layers. The Annamaya Kosha, the Pranamaya Kosha, the Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha come and merge with the totality. This is one way by which most people leave the body. It is this that Swami Vivekananda also had. Sri Ramakrishna also did. A stage came where his last days had come, and wonderfully, happily, he says, my work is done. All my powers I am going to give to Swamiji. Swami Vivekananda has to continue this work and spread this great message and bring about a great transformation. My mission is over. And with that, he leaves the body with a smile on the face, with absolute confidence, and the speck started spreading as an effulgent light and merged with the totality. We had such examples of great bhaktas everywhere, in every state in our country, and throughout the world also there are great bhaktas following maybe different religions, but they all go back to their original state. But there is yet another method by which the persons can go beyond the Anandamaya Kosha. That is, to transform the physical body into the pranic body, the process of what Aurobindo called as divinization, and converting the Pranamaya Kosha into Manomaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha into Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha into Anandamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha completely merging with the totality or Brahman. That is yet another way by which many people leave the body. Diffuse the gross body into its subtler layers one by one. The physical body consisting of the Panchabhutas, they get converted into Panchatanmatras. That means the gross elements of the body. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apaha, Prithvi. The five Panchabhutas. Akasha, the sky. Vayu, the wind. Agni, the fire. Water, the Varuna. And the Prithvi, the physical matter. All these five Panchabhutas with which our gross physical body is made, with which this Annamaya Kosha is constructed, now is going to get converted. They get converted into the subtle form. The subtle form of the Panchabhutas are called Panchatanmatras, and these Panchatanmatras will start getting deeper and deeper. They go from the Annamaya to Pranamaya, they get transformed into Manomaya Kosha, they become still subtler and become the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and finally it merges with the Anandamaya Kosha and the ultimate. And that is what we see in the lives of many other Mahatmas who were able to completely diffuse. Ramalingam Mahaswamigal, a great Siddhar from Tamil Nadu, a great Bhakta, a great Gnani, he had this great power to transform at will the Panchabhutas into Panchatanmatras, Panchatanmatras into the totality. And he had transgressed the normal laws, and he was ever jubilant, ever happy. And such great masters who were able to diffuse the body, they had achieved great heights. But there are other people who have got the Icchamaranatva, like the Bhishma, who says, well, you have put all the arrows and I was to die, but now the time is not ripe. I have to wait for the correct time to come, and therefore I will wait for those good days. And he keeps the prana intact for those 10 to 15 days, and then he leaves the body. They have complete ichha maranatva. That means they have the conquest over the death. When such masters leave the body voluntarily, either through diffusion or through separation of the different layers, what happens to him? What happens to such people is explained in the next verse. Abrahma bhuvanal lokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetyatu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Abrahma bhuvanal lokaha. That means for all the people until the Brahmaloka, starting from this Bhuloka, from Annamaya Kosha to the Anandamaya Kosha, all those who ascend, normally they all come back. By the karma, by the Vishesha Yagnas, by various ways of upasanas, they can rise to the different levels. So when they die, they go to the Manomaya Kosha, they enjoy their life in the heavens, and then Kshine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. When the Punya is exhausted, they come back. They do 100 yagnas and they raise themselves to the heaven and then become the Indras. And even as Indra, you stay there for the lifespan of Indra, and then you come back to the earth. So therefore, all the karmas or upasanas, whatever we do, in which we rise to this level up to the Brahmaloka, they all come back. But Krishna is telling that those people who became such parabhaktas, who have gone through the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, such great bhaktas will not come back. And somebody asked Sri Ramakrishna, and his characteristic style, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, it is like a salt doll which is trying to measure the depth of the ocean. So we are like the salt doll trying to measure that infinite ocean of pure consciousness. And as we start going towards it, gradually we lose all our individualities, and as the salt doll merge with the ocean, we also merge with that ocean of consciousness. And therefore, there is no return. There is no return to that physical thing. Yet another verse confirming that the Bhakti Yogi also will reach that moksha, that eternal freedom, freedom from all the bondages, freedom from all the dukkhas, freedom from all miseries, tensions, stresses, freedom from the subtlest of the bondage of birth and death. Shri Krishna gives this verse, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami nachirat partha maya veshita chetasam. In this verse he says, Tesham aham samudharta. Such people, I take them to the shores, cross them through the ocean of the samsara, and taking them to that shores of infinite pure consciousness, and they are rid of all the bondages. And such bondages, when they overcome, then they reach the moksha. So for them there is no return to the earth, and there is no bondage of birth and death. As normal people we are, every one of us are in this cycle of birth and death, birth and death. When normally we die, the physical body is separated, and we are with the other four koshas, pranamaya, manomaya, vijnana, anandamaya koshas, and all the samskaras, all the imprints that we have gathered through the life will all be there in these four koshas and the subtle body and the causal body, and because of this prevalence we all come back and take another body. The birth and death is like changing clothes. That's what the Gita says. And that is the bondage. We have gotten stuck with that cycle of birth and death, until we use our freedom to raise to those levels of parabhakti, we will not be rid of this bondage. So Krishna says that you will be able to overcome that bondage when you reach that parabhakti, and the parabhakti stage there is no bondage of birth and death. That is the subtlest bondage that we have. This also proves that Bhakti Yoga can lead independently to moksha, and moksha is the state of total freedom. It is a state of highest bliss. It is a state of all pervasive reality. And therefore, this is called Videha Mukti. That is, when we leave the body, we enter into that mukti, that eternal freedom, that all pervasive reality. We tune ourselves, and that is the end point that has been talked about here, and that is called moksha. Therefore, the ultimate goal of Bhakti Yogi is to reach that total silence, to reach that transcendence, to reach that moksha. And that moksha is not a vacuum, it is a state of highest freedom, highest bliss, total knowledge and total power. That is the ultimate goal of our lives. Starting from where we are, those people who start the pilgrimage will determine, yes, I use all my freedom to enhance my qualities or the virtues or the Daivi Sampat, and using all my freedom I am going to reduce my Asuri Sampat, all the vices I am going to reduce, and all the good qualities, the virtues I am going to increase. Having determined this, having taken a resolve, I use my freedom, I use my intelligence, I use my willpower, particularly the willpower to transform my emotions, start training myself in the field of emotions, working with the emotions very subtly. I start raising myself from the feeling of gross love or gross friendship to make it a real good friendship called prema, featured by Tyaga. Then from this prema level, I raise myself to be a devotee, a bhakta, which features the surrender, and that surrender, when it enhances itself from material positions to completely giving up of even the prana, there arises sakshatkara. And sakshatkara normally in the beginning is called saguna samadhi, that is seeing God in flesh and blood with the akara, with the form, that is the samadhi in form is called the saguna samadhi. With all the adjectives, with all the adjuncts, you become one with that God, and you start seeing God in flesh and blood. That is called the saguna sakshatkara. From there you rise higher to the next level, in which you have varieties and varieties of samadhis and various types of sakshatkaras. You go through that to reach the nirguna sakshatkara or nirvikalpa samadhi. This is the region of advanced bhakti yoga. These are the higher layers of nirguna samadhi, and staying in that is called parabhakti. Parabhakti is a life of equanimity, a life of immense love, a life of universal love, a lifestyle of the ecstatic bliss fragrance coming out as a big fragrance everywhere. And such a person, when he leaves the body voluntarily, he merges and becomes one with the moksha, and that is the state of eternal freedom, bliss, knowledge and power. That is the ultimate goal of all our lives. And this is the divine pilgrimage, and this is the real pilgrimage, going into Tirtha Yatra, to Rameshwaram, to Kashi, to Sabat, to various places of sanctity is the gross physical pilgrimage, while this is the real inner pilgrimage, to raise ourselves from the lowest levels of Asuri Sampat to the highest levels of moksha by harnessing our emotions, Through the path of bhakti, we go step by step, systematically to reach the highest. And that is the whole dimension of Bhakti Yoga talked about in this even Bhagavad Gita, in which the 18 verses have been selected, and we get the whole dimension. And this message has been developed into a highly systematized science by Swami Vivekananda, who drew his inspiration, got all his wisdom from his teacher, the great Master Sri Ramakrishna, and started spreading this message, and the new turn started. 1893, after September 11th, he went round the globe, went into various cities and towns in the United States, spreading this divine wisdom, the consciousness-based approach in contrast to matter-based approach. He preached and proclaimed that we are not just the physical body, but we all have 4 more layers of existence. And with this spiritual wisdom, he was able to conquer the hearts of the best of the intellectual genii. He was able to conquer the best of the people of United States, United Kingdom, Japan. And when he came back to this soil of India, then there was a tremendous applause for his achievements. The kings came to carry him on the palanquin. When he descended from the ship which brought him to the shores in India, the first thing he did was he came down, took the sand and put that sand on his head. And that is the immense love he had for the country. He had missed India for such a long time, his Matrabhumi, Mother Bharat he had missed. Then he came, he surrendered himself to this mother, and he had heralded the grandeur of Mother Bharat through his voyage and going round the world, conquesting the world, and he started spreading this message. And that great message that all paths lead to the same goal is a unique contribution of Swami Vivekananda and is the most relevant for the modern times. In the whole history of our country, there has been emphasis on different aspects, but Swami Vivekananda said the most relevant thing is to understand even the bhakti can reach you to the highest levels of excellence, highest levels of perfection and freedom. It can take us to moksha. Therefore, even treading the path of a simple thing like bhakti, harnessing our emotions, culturing the emotions, going subtler and subtler into the emotions, going to the very base of the emotions, is the path of bhakti. And the bhakti can lead you to that same moksha which gnana can take. And that is the very special contribution of Swami Vivekananda. So it is this holistic vision that we have taken up in this organization, Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthan. He said we have to get the best of the West combined with the best of the East to bring a new effervescence. The great wisdom of this bhakti has to be brought forth in its pristine purity, in its science to the forefront, to bring about the transformation to the ailing humanity, to transform our education system in colleges, in schools, so that the people learn how to deal with their emotions. The task of bringing this science of emotion culture is to be done, and in a beautiful book he said that here are the solutions to the problems of India and the problems of the world, and he left those works for the future devotees and workers of this Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement, and it is going and spreading its wings everywhere, all over the world, and people are coming to grasp the importance and the implications of that great message. So, Sri Ramakrishna's great spouse Sharadama, who was the Guru's mother, and she is the embodiment of love and motherhood, which Swami Vivekananda adored, and Ramakrishna Sharadama and Swami Vivekananda, the Trinity, brings all the life and wisdom to the world at large. And let us follow the grand traditions built by them, unraveled by them, and let us also research ourselves into our inner being to unravel the hidden mysteries and grow to great heights of excellence. Thank you.